Hi there, BookTube! My name is Christina and welcome back to Novel Niche. Today I'm here to film my spring TBR, and if you're familiar with my content you already know it, but if not I will just explain to you briefly. Usually I try and create seasonal TBRs because I'm a mood reader and this means that I often change idea, I reach for different books, but these are the books that I kind of roughly can get to probably maybe in the months of spring. And if you want to know more titles, I already have a list for my middle grade March, and I will leave the link to that video down below, and that's the first part of my spring. But then we will have 2 more months, and I again went a little bit overboard with the amount of books that I want to read, but this time I tried to focus a little bit more on audiobooks and ebooks, because I realized that I actually can listen to more audiobooks, and I really need to start going through my ebook TBR because it's too long. I said it, it's too long. But without further ado, let me get to the books that I have here. Let's start with the physical books. I only have 3 physical books for this spring TBR, and the first one that I have here is Sisters of Versailles by Sally Christie. This is a book that I decided to go for just because, I don't know, this year Versailles makes me think about spring and open spaces, and I really want it in my life and we cannot have it, so I will go for that. It's historical fiction. We are following one of, I believe, the three sisters, and what it says behind is that she meets the king, and over the following decade she and 3 of her younger sisters, Pauline, Diane and Marianne, will conspire and betray, suffer and triumph in a desperate fight for both love and power, as each takes her turn as the king's favorite for a time. So gossipy, just over every kind of board, I don't know. I think that they will be a little bit extra feisty and interesting and intriguing because we're at court and intrigue, so we will see how it goes, but I really wanted to reach for this one. I bought it some years ago and not read it yet, so I would love to go for this. Next is a book that I thrifted, and it has quite a unique concept. It's called Every Girl's Duty by Alice Miles, and it's the diary of a Victorian debutante, edited with a commentary by Maggie Parsons. And it is actually the diary of a Victorian debutante, so I believe it's kind of more like non-fiction, but I really want to go through it. It's not very long, even if it's written in kind of a small font, but this book is something special. I want to get to it. The naked version. I want to get to it, and I don't know, the idea of a lady having a diary makes me think about spring for whatever reason, so that's the next one. And the third physical book that I have here, I'm so excited about, because this is probably one of the things that I had in my mind on my reading wish list for the longest time, and I finally borrowed it from my library. And it's Peggy Sue e gli Invisibili, or Peggy Sue and the Invisibles. And this book was originally written in French, and the French title was Peggy Sue et les fantômes, les jours du chien bleu. And this is a children's middle grade adventure fantasy story, I believe. It's the first one in a series, and the reason why it's been for the longest time on this list is because this is one of the books that I remember listening about when I was in, like, how old I was, I don't know, it was around 2003 probably. Librarians used to come at our school and tell us the books that were the main thing at the moment, and kind of hype them up and just try to spark that desire for us to read them and to buy them in the future. And I remember this book, so I had it in the back of my mind for decades at this point, and finally it's here, so I hope that I will enjoy it. I don't remember anything about the content, I just remember the title and the cover, and finally it's here and I will read it. Next, let's get to the audiobooks that I have. So the very first audiobook that I would like to read is After I Do. This is one of the books from the backlist of Taylor Jenkins Reads. I love how this author writes. I read 3 of her books at this point, and After I Do is the story of a couple who married and then they kind of start to drift apart, and they decide to take a year off their marriage to kind of rediscover themselves and what happens next. And Taylor Jenkins Reads is really able to create believable, like, protagonists who seem like real people, and you kind of want to meet them and you feel like they're just your neighbor. So I would love to see her take on this kind of concept. Then the next one, I have to be honest here, I don't remember a thing about the concept of the book. It's Magogna. This is, I believe, a young adult magical realism, probably. It's a part of a duology. I just remember watching a bunch of booktubers talking about this book back in the days, like some years ago. Now it completely disappeared from any radar, but I still have it. I have it as an audiobook and I would love to listen to it. Plus, the cover makes me think about spring evenings, and the feather makes me think about birds, and birds I associate it with spring, so this is where it's coming from. And the next one, speaking about birds, is The Genius of Birds. This is a non-fiction book that I would love to read, just because, as I told you before, spring is really the season when birds are coming back and you start hearing them sing, and I just want to know more about birds. Why not? So I have this non-fiction as an audiobook. Then next I have Big Friendship, How We Keep Each Other Close, and again it's a non-fiction audiobook. And the reason why I went for this one, this is probably on a little bit more of a sadder note, is that we're all kept apart from our beloved ones, and I just would love to read about friendship, about how it works, how you can improve it, and just the scientific aspect of friendship, how we work when we interact with other people. I think that it's a very interesting topic and I just would love to listen to this book. Then the last one that I have here is Sunrise at Butterfly Cove, and as you may see already from the cover, this is one of those cozy books. This is part of a series, and I don't remember exactly the content, but just the cover kind of was screaming spring, and I decided to go for this one. I believe that it will be light and fluffy, and I hope that I will love listening to this kind of story. I believe that it's a romance too, usually they are. And then let's get to the ebooks that I have on my list. The first one is The Blue Castle, and I know nothing about the content except that it's written by Montgomery, and I would love to read her other books other than just Anne of Green Gables, and I will give it a chance this spring, I hope. I don't know, the idea of a castle makes me think about wandering and walking around, and it's everything that I want to do right now, so random association in my mind, but that's one that I will probably try to read this spring. Then next we have Territory of Light, and this one is about Japanese author, and again, no real reason except for the cover that makes me think about spring, the light, the softness of it, just the way everything wakes up. And Japanese authors have a very unique relationship with the changing of the seasons, so maybe there will be some aspects dealing with it in this book. Who knows? Then I have Dreamology, and again this is one of those that I had for the longest time on my ebook TBR, and this I decided to pick just because of the cover. It's pinkish, it makes me think about spring, and I remember zero about the content of this book, so I have to read it. Then a book with an overly cute title is I Love You So Mochi, and I really don't need to know anything else. Maybe it will be a bad book, but I still love the title, so I will give it a chance and I will try and read it this spring. then if I will be able, I will give a try to Station 11. Station 11 is a well-known book, and unfortunately it will be probably still kind of relevant because it is set in a post-apocalyptic reality, from what I know, after a great part of humanity disappeared because of a pandemic, I think. So it hits kind of hard on certain topics, but from what I know, it's very delicate and it's a pleasant experience to read this book, so I will try and read it. And this is it. These are all of the books that I planned to read this spring. Probably I will read different ones. I will pick some of this, I won't pick some of this. It will just happen randomly because, again, I'm a mood reader. I can't do anything with it. I'm so sorry. No, I'm not sorry. I'm happy with the kind of reader I am. And let me know down below if you've read any of these books or if you're planning to read any of these books. And this is it for this video. I hope to see you very, very soon in my next one. Bye! Ciao and happy spring!